spoke about last month. Then we'll go into new business. All right, Livingston Avenue. The last we have is the county is working on phase 2 details. So that's the whole
Yeah, I think go to phase 3. There's actually a meeting on that this morning. Engineering and staff from my office were over there at that. I wasn't at the meeting, but they had a meeting with T&M and the county people going over updates on the final design plan. So that's moving along.
Okay, but it is phase 2. Is that the?
I think they might be at the phase 3
phase
now
3?
in terms of the design. I'm not 100% sure.
All right.
I believe it's phase 3.
Okay, so that's moving along. Let's see. There was a suggestion to make Delavan off of Lee and Remsen no parking school days. We had gone last month and did a survey of that area, we being the parking authority, and we felt that that was a good way to go for that area. Those are for people that are parking on the street where it narrows. And so I had spoken to Tom Valente, and I asked him to proceed with putting the ordinance through for that area to make it no parking school days. So that was the last I don't know if that went through, and I didn't see it.
And the agenda, not.
Okay, so I will follow up, or we will follow up with engineering to see if that was done or is it being processed at this point. Redmond Street, I have no update. George's Road, Talmadge, engineering was going to look at the site triangles there, and we had no update, and obviously no one from engineering here today, so we can't add to that. Lee Avenue, this is the speed hump, or speed cushions. Engineering was supposed to get back, no update on that. And then we had received a request for a speed hump on Palace Street. I had a contact listed who I contacted because I was curious to know why they were requesting a speed hump. Not that I was surprised. Basically had to do with vehicle speeding. Allegedly, a child was struck by a vehicle on that block previously, and the fellow who I spoke to, his own dog was hit by a car. So they felt it was necessary to have a speed hump installed. We spoke about last time, I don't think anyone had a problem doing so. But at the same time, we could use this to lead into new business, because we did have a discussion about coming up with some sort of procedure to follow when it comes to residents requesting speed humps on their street in New Brunswick. And I believe, are you Dan?
Yes.
Dan, nice to meet you. I'm Mitch Karen. I think Dan did a study on possible speed hump installation process. Is that something that you want to go over now?
Yeah,
Okay.
can do that. I'd ask Dan to look into it. He's done a memo for me on that, looking at how some other jurisdictions have handled the process. We were here last week. So concerned that it a little too informal with the process, and there should be some standards as to how we're reviewing these things, as to should they go on this type of road, not on that type of road, how is each request handled, so that we're treating people in a fair and balanced type of way. So Dan did some background on it. So they came up with some good suggestions as to why the humps are installed, which I think we're kind of familiar with, and sort of a process to develop it where the residents could make a request, and going back to confirm the validity of what the neighbors are asking, having staff take a look at the locations and go through an approval process. And we also try to take a look at where are the existing speed humps out there. I don't know if there's a good inventory of them. I tried to come up with an inventory just from using Google Maps and so forth, looking at the street and seeing where they're visible. So I'm sure we missed some of them, but I came up with about 42 existing speed humps out there. And I tried to overlay the bus routes to that, and that's sort of one of the concerns. And Chris has brought up concerns with fire access routes, I don't know exactly what you call them, but that's so that the ambulances and fire trucks aren't delayed in their routing and so forth. Try to overlay that on there, but right now there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of conflict between where the humps are located and where the bus routes are. There's going to probably be fire routes, because I would imagine they're mostly on the more major streets like Sedam or Handy or Livingston.
Easton, Sedam, Livingston Avenue, George Street, Nielsen, Nickel, extension out there, George Street, Riders Lane. That's our big stuff. And I was going to, I'm going to write some stuff for you.
Yes, that's, I mean, kind of the idea is to come up with the type of streets that pumps would be permitted on, you know, little local residential type streets, things that are more major collectors or arterials that not necessarily that be banned, but they would have to at least meet some sort of higher standard or you know, not be located there because it would have other impacts and so forth. And then we're formalizing the request process a little bit. So that's the direction I think we'd like to go. Things you want to add on?
No, I think that more or less covers it.
Just curious, with the speed humps, were they, when you're doing research, did anything fall into that, like the pillows we were talking about?
Yeah, in the memo there, I think, when I was in the email, I think I sent to you that I think that's something we ought to take a look at. I think it's sit down with DPW and see if that's something that they can do when they install them, so that they can be done that way. So even if it is on a collector's fee, you guys are going up it, that you have a way to sort of minimize the jarring impact of the humps on your vehicles and so forth. So,
And I can give you, obviously, the tire dimensions on it, so we can get a rough between here and here and here and here. Good.
so on your truck, are the wheelbases, the width wheelbases, are they generally fairly standard? No.
Yes. Yeah. The length is not necessarily
Yeah.
from the ladders to rescue
Yeah.
engines, but the width is pretty much within it, you know, 6 inches, pretty much the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine it takes a little more effort to install the pillows rather than the humps. Because the humps just one big thing you lay across, whereas you're going to have a little more measurement involved in doing the pillows to get those tracks right or whatever.
But those would only be in certain situations, not everywhere.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, thanks for doing the study, I appreciate that. I think, in all fairness, since Carol, I know, and Keith, and possibly even Chris, this is the first time they're seeing this, I think what I'd like you to do is review it. Next month, come back with your comments that you have, and then we proceed accordingly. If everyone agrees with that strategy. Did you share this with engineering?
Yeah, I think
Okay, we'll follow up, so, you know, because they're not at this meeting, obviously, so, and then if everyone's, yeah, if you have questions, bring them. Hopefully we'll be able to answer them. If not, then, you know, or once we do answer them, if you're satisfied, then we can move forward. All right? Great. The other item of new business, so going back to, and I know I don't want to hold up these speed humps that we have on our desk, because it might take a couple of months to implement this change. Plus, we also wanted to find out about the speed pillows as an alternative. So, Powell Street, I think we all in agreement to go forward with the Powell Street speed hump. I don't think anyone has a problem with Powell Street. The other street is that I just received was Dick Street. Looks like we have approximately 85% of the residents or the addresses have signed off on this. Again, I am sure it's to avoid Woodbridge Street, which already has speed humps, so they're now shooting down Dick Street instead. The next street over is Lewis Street, which that's a different story altogether about speed humps. That would be a fire route. So I personally don't have any problem agreeing to Dick Street. Do you see any problem?
No, I agree. I think from my own observation, it's used sometimes as to avoid Woodbridge or whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely used to avoid Lewis Street. Yeah, because Lewis Street,
I
especially in rush hour, gets all backed up.
to go up that way myself.
So what I'll do is I'll pass both of these on to DPW, tell them that the Traffic Commission does not have any issues having these installed. You're okay with Dick Street as well, Chris? All right.
No issues.
Fire department's on board, and I'll let him take it from there, do his thing. That was the only, Dick Street was the only new business I had. With that, I'll take it around the table, see if anyone has anything they'd like to bring up to the commission. Ed?
No,
Carol?
good.
Glenn? Chris? Charlie, you have anything you'd like to discuss?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see some, kind of big picture look at the speed hump issue. And I just want to ask, is that plan there going to be shared with the public? Can I get a copy so I can, include it with my article?
Yeah, I think it's on the,
It's
Lewis
draft,
space
it's
right now.
draft.
You want to put in an Oprah for it, if we can.
So maybe.
I mean, I think once we make a decision, I think that's, right now it's a draft, am I correct? So once we make the decision, we'll be more than happy to share with you. Once
If
it's
you
out
put in an
draft.
Oprah, we'll respond to you on that.
Okay. And yeah, at least the map, I would hope. Thank you for that. I wanted to ask if anybody knows about the taxi commission here in New Brunswick. I think they just had a meeting for the first time in a while yesterday in these chambers.
I've heard of it.
Okay, so nobody here,
No,
nobody
I've
here's
heard of it.
about it. Okay.
I don't know.
We're not
anything
following
about
it,
Yeah.
though.
Okay, well, I think it would make sense for the taxi commission to work with the traffic commission. Taxi situation is really, not a good situation, I would say. And I know, one of the issues that they talked about at yesterday's meeting was, it says Uber regulation or something. So I think it would behoove the traffic commission to know what the taxi commission is doing, and perhaps have a member in common. Reiterate my request that somebody from the county, somebody from Rutgers be invited. And I do want to raise a concern that I brought up at the parking authority meeting about these buses, the 5th and 6th Ward shuttle. Just driving around, last I saw it's labeled Ward 1 and Ward 2, which are real places in New Brunswick that the shuttle won't take you to. And so it's no wonder that the shuttle is mostly empty. I see 1 or 2 riders sometimes, but it's never full. And I think I made this point before that more people might ride it if they knew about it. And one way to get them to know about it might cost some money, but it might be worth it since we're already, got this bus driving around empty all the time. If there were shelters along the route, people then would know that there's a place that they can go, and if it's cold or it's wet, they can be sheltered. But also, it's proof that the bus stops there. And the New Brunswick shuttle is unique in terms of the Rutgers bus system in that it's the only bus that you're supposed to, most of its route, you're supposed to be able to flag it down at an intersection or along the route. The vast majority of Rutgers students do not know this. They see the bus, it's a different size than the other buses. They assume this bus is not for me, this is a special bus, and they don't even know that they can ride it. one way to make them aware they could ride it would be to have shelters along the route. And the parking authority, to their credit, invested in a shelter at the Key Food supermarket where they changed the route just a little bit and got it to stop there. And now there's one more shelter along the route. But unfortunately, this terrible contractor that Rutgers has, First Transit, has basically resurrected these old buses. You might have seen them around town. They don't say Rutgers anywhere on them, and they're like repurposed from North Carolina State University. And I was shocked to learn that these buses actually, had problems with fumes, and one of the drivers died.
Excuse me, say that again?
A driver's family alleged that she had died because of fumes coming in the bus. No, North Carolina State. These same buses. It was called the Wolf Line. And now these buses, First Transit has taken these buses. They lost their contract with North Carolina State. North Carolina State ditched them and got hopefully a better company. Rutgers now is the beneficiary of these old, ugly buses that are now driving around with a mislabeling on them. It says Ward 1 and Ward 2. And the backstory here I shared with the parking authority. In 2011, I met with Jack Molinar, who was at the time the person in charge of the transit system here for Rutgers. And I had some constructive suggestions for how the New Brunswick shuttle route could be made better, how it might increase ridership if it went a different way, I thought. And he ultimately instituted a compromise where they basically they had two shuttles. They made it so one would go clockwise and the other would go counterclockwise. One of them was my idea and the other one was kind of the status quo. And ever since then, there's been two routes. You could call it the Brunswick 1 and the Brunswick 2. But calling it the Ward 1 and the Ward 2 is a bad idea because it's actually Wards 5 and 6 that the shuttle serves, and it's just not helping to mislabel it.
Who operates the buses that you said came over? Rutgers, they own those buses?
They contract with a company called First Transit.
But it's contracted through Rutgers, has nothing to do with the city of
Correct.
Yes, two records.
Yeah, Rutgers does the contract, but I've made the point before, I think this board or this commission should work more closely with Rutgers because obviously they can be hard to work with sometimes, and especially when they're not in the room and not at the table, it's that much harder. So the first step is getting them to the table. I'd like them to be invited to a meeting, and I would, at the very least, I would settle for just a comprehensive look, like you did with the speed humps, a comprehensive look at the buses in New Brunswick, because it's not just the Rutgers system that could be better. There's many signs around town that say, here's a bus stop for NJ Transit. One of these came up in the zoning board over Hamilton and Easton. There's a bus stop there, but you could wait for weeks or months. There's not going to be a bus that actually stops there, but there's a sign that tells you there is. And there's one in my neighborhood too, on Remsen Avenue. The bus doesn't stop there, but there's a sign. So much like the parking authorities had to look at its signs and make sure that they're in line with the ordinances, NJ Transit or the city, somebody should take a lead and make sure that we're at least giving people correct information about where to get the buses, and that might improve people's confidence in the system and their likelihood that they'll ride it. I don't ride NJ Transit buses because, I don't know one that would help me get where I want to go. But maybe if there was more information out there, I might use the system more. And I think Rutgers, same thing. It's actually a great asset for the city of New Brunswick that Rutgers pays for and runs a bus system that's free, fairless, no pay for everybody in New Brunswick. And that system, if we just tweak it and make it a little better, it could be an even better, greater asset for the city. And I'd like to see the city, have increased coordination between the Rutgers buses, the transit buses. The county also runs routes. Everybody should be at the table and talking about how we can make the system most efficient so people can get where they need to go, and if they need to switch buses, that the timing is right, that they can have a place to wait that's comfortable. And I just think we need to be more comprehensive. The city has a lot more to offer than just parking garages and parking on street. There's other ways to get around, and the more that we improve people's use of those ways to get around, the less the parking problem is a detriment. The more cars we can take off the road, the safer the city will be, and the healthier the city will be. And you guys know the benefits. I don't have to tell you, but I'd like to see a real comprehensive look at the buses in New Brunswick.
So, Charlie, can you go back? You said that there are, I guess, bus signs that are installed that no buses go to.
And
Where were the streets again?
I think-
You mentioned.
Remsen and Seaman, I want to say, is the one in my neighborhood, and then there's one right on Easton, right near Hamilton.
There's a bus that stops there.
On Easton.
Not at that
There is a bus that goes up on Easton, I know that,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure where it stopped. But we can
It
check.
doesn't stop there? I mean, I don't go by that intersection that often, but I know.
Oh, no,
there's a
in
bus
fact,
that
there's
goes-
often parked cars
There's
there.
a bus
No-
that goes on Easton Avenue, so.
Oh, yeah, I just don't
Yeah,
think
there's
it
a
makes that
bus.
stop, and it's kind of, the sign is kind of sheltered by trees, so nobody
So
waits
there is a
there.
sign out, so if I go.
There is a sign there, and
But it tells you what route it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly,
We'll say M, whatever,
Yeah,
37.
it's right in front of the professional building.
exactly, the one where there's going to be a
It
new.
shows up very well in the Google Street View thing, as we showed Charlie at the
Exactly.
planning board meeting. when he
Oh, okay.
complained about it.
Charlie, at about 1 o'clock, I was coming over Lewis Street at Hamilton, and your first ward bus was picking up 2 students right by the tower.
That is the most frequently used stop on that route, according to the drivers, and wouldn't it be great if there was a shelter there? So I know actually a developer got approved to do a project there, they agreed to put a shelter there. When that happens, hopefully there'll be a shelter there, and maybe even more people will ride it.
They did agree to do a show? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's good.
Are those the white kind of
The
smaller?
white and red,
White.
I saw ever since you came to our meeting, I saw.
1964 World's Fair, I mean,
Right,
they're.
right,
yeah,
and then
they're
it's like,
Russian
you're
square,
saying like, yeah, I
rectangular.
saw them, yeah, and then it kind of says Ward 1 in the.
Yeah, much-
Exactly,
Right,
the digital display on the front.
They used to always say, use New Brunswick show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
which was
assume they-
more- which was much more,
I assume that their message, they can't handle.
It's a lot of letters, but still.
Word, but, yeah, I'm not sure why they picked Word, so we'll look into that.
Yeah,
Shuttle 1, shuttle 2.
Yeah, the
Right.
Brunswick one. I know there's enough room on the side to fit it.
Was it, yeah, Caracat, look, Caracat,
I can't pronounce that guy's
yeah.
name.
And the minute I called it, because they have another bus called the library shuttle, so they may not want to call it that,
The
not
shuttle,
confuse
they don't use the
people.
word shuttle.
shuttle.
Yeah, and then, what do they call the one at night, the? whenever-
Night mover.
We don't call it the
The
drunk bus.
Yeah, the night mover.
Well, I agree, I mean, Ward 1 and Ward 2, it means nothing to people.
Yeah.
Doesn't it means,
Yeah.
well, I live, like Charlie say, I live in Ward 6, well, I can't get on that bus.
Yeah.
So-
So they may only have, I don't know, I'm just totally speculating, but it may only have,
Yeah, well-
6 spaces and, 4 for board.
I'll reach out.
space.
I'll reach out
They
to-
might have limits, but,
I'll reach out to Rockies, I'll find out.
Yeah,
and
I
I'll
don't
try
know why
to
they have
figure out
their bus if they,
their thought pattern
they're
around.
odd looking.
Okay, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlie.
And
Oh, I'm sorry, did you have something else?
I did, but that's all for today. Thank you.
Okay,
I put all in there.
that's not a good sign when you forget things. So, okay, we're good? Good. All right, let's adjourn then. Until next month, November 2nd.